Okay, guys. Hi. Today we're going to be talking about the AP English Literature and Composition exam, and I'm just going to go through the basics with you, the structure, the scoring, the content, and how we can start to begin to study for this sucker. So as most of you know, the exam starts on May 9th at 8 a.m. Make sure to eat a good breakfast that morning and make sure to get here well on time. Try to get here a little bit early. It'll last about 3 hours, and there's 2 sections. So you'll start with the multiple choice section, which is about 60 minutes, and it's 45% of your overall grade. As you know from your diagnostic test, there are 55 questions based on 45 passages, with which most of them you haven't ever read before, if any of them. Section 2 is going to be your essay section. There are 3 essays, and it'll take you about 120 minutes to get that one done. This one's worth 55% of your grade. So the 3 essays consist of your poetry free response, your prose free response, and your open response. And it's a good idea to kind of say about 40 minutes per essay, bearing in mind that those first 2 tests you are going to have 2 cold readings. So you'll have a cold short story and you'll have a cold poem that you haven't seen before. In terms of who writes the AP exam, these are all done by English teachers, either high school or college. They're all people who have also written the SAT and other graduate school or professional exams. What those 8 people do, those 8 people on the committee do, is they go through, they pick the passages, they write the questions, and they will submit the first draft. From there, ETS, which is just the College Board's testing committee, comes in and they fine-tune the test to make sure that it meets their standards. In terms of what your final score means, it's really going to depend on what college you're going to. In general, most colleges are going to take a 5 or even a 4. Some take a 3, very few are going to take a 2, and most will not take a 1. You can kind of see by looking at this chart, and feel free to pause if you need to, the number of people who take the test and receive that score, and then the percentage of people who receive that score as well, along with what they kind of would give you in terms of a grade if you were taking that class in a college course. Does that mean it's going to transfer in as that grade? Maybe not. But that kind of gives you an idea of about where you stand. In terms of your multiple choice score, the multiple choice section of the test, you will receive 1 point for each question that you answer correctly. You don't get points for questions that you leave blank. So it's incredibly important that even if you are completely unsure, you guess and you fill in every single bubble on your answer sheet. Pick your letter of the day and go with it. As you already know, your essays are all scored on a holistic score of a scale from 0 to 9, 9 being the highest score, 0 meaning you pretty much left it blank or drew a picture. The scores of each essay are added together, so all 3 of them are added together, and that total is anywhere between a 0 and a 27. That is your essay section score. As a reader goes through your score and gives you an overall evaluation, they'll use that holistic scoring. A 9 essay basically is above and beyond. It answers all facets. It's sophisticated. It's properly punctuated. A low scoring essay is just simply going to be deficient in some of those qualities that the great essays have. Your final score, that AP score that you're looking for to see if you get college credit or not, that 1 to 5 is a combination of those 2 sections. So remember, the multiple choice is 45% and the essay is 55%. And even though this proportion kind of makes them almost equal, they aren't entirely equal. It's kind of convoluted in the mathematical formula that they come to. But ultimately, the formula is going to involve a 150-point scale. If you received the calculation sheet from your diagnostic test, you'll see at the very bottom of it that there is the scale that has the AP score to the right and a 150-point scale to the left. In order to get to that scale, you have to multiply your essay score by 3.0556 and your multiple choice score by 1.2272. That multiplier is going to change from year to year because there's lots of different factors. Sometimes the essays are more difficult than others, so the multiplier might be more. But but this has been the most popular and common one. This is the one that's published in most books and even on the College Board's website. Neither you nor I nor your college will ever know what your individual scores are. We'll only ever get an overall final score of 1 to 5. I want you to look at the overall test as 2 separate assessments, the multiple choice portion and the free response section. So we'll start with the multiple choice. Remember, 55 questions, 45 passages, 45% of the overall score. And then your free response, 3 essays, each scored on a 0 to 9 scale, about 55% of the overall score. So the cutoff point for each year, kind of as I mentioned before, is set only after every single test comes in. Regardless, a good bottom line goal is to get at least 30 questions right in the multiple choice section and to earn a 5 on each of your essays to earn a total of 15 points on the essay section. That's going to pretty much guarantee that you get a 3 on the overall AP score. And then just increasing in any of those categories can increase your overall score to hopefully a 4 or a 5. Here's what the grading scale looks like, and I'll kind of explain it a little bit more. So the highlighted section at the top deals with your essay points. So let's pretend like you get a 5 on all 3 of your essays. That'll give you an overall score of a 15. And let's pretend like you get 30 questions right out of 55. If you take this chart and you get your 5 on all your essays and 30 questions right, that puts you about at a 3. Now, if you get all 6s and still 30 questions right, you'll see that you get a 4. And so you can use this chart to figure out about where you think you are and about where you need to be in order to set some goals and figure out what you need to do. So if you want to practice a little bit, you can take your diagnostic test and see sort of where you were at the beginning. So figure out where you were on your practice exam, your diagnostic, and figure, okay, I need to shoot for a minimum of 30 out of 55, or maybe even higher if you want to aim higher. You'll be spending 60 minutes, and that means that you have to get right 30 and you can guess 25. That's going to tell you about how much more you need to increase from your practice exam to taking the actual exam. We all know that time is the one thing that's going to keep many people from being as successful as they can be. It's what makes a lot of people nervous, and it's the thing that most people stress out about. But this honestly does not have to be the case. The multiple choice section is always going to be an hour long. It's always going to contain 4 to 5 passages with a total of 55 questions. So if you think about it logistically, you could evenly distribute your time, say 15 minutes for 4 passages or 12 minutes for 5 passages. Think about time and stay on pace. When you feel like you're getting the feel for the passage and the kind of questions, you can take all the time that you need. After all, your purpose is different at this stage since we're practicing and familiarizing yourself with the process. When you get to the actual test, you'll learn how to pace your time, and you'll learn how to figure out how to distribute that 15 minutes for 4 passages or 12 minutes for 5 passages. It is okay to guess, and I want you to keep this in the back of your mind throughout. It's okay to guess, it's okay to guess, it's okay to guess. You have 1 hour, okay, to read 4 passages, maybe 5, and have 55 questions. You know that if you need 30, and if there are 15 questions in the first section, you probably want to get about 8 right in order to meet that 30 in total. But that means that you can guess on 25 questions. That's a lot of guessing, right? Almost half. So think of it that way. It's okay to guess. Chances are you're going to get some of those questions right. You just really have to make sure that for certain you can get those 30 questions right. You can do that. Okay, so in terms of getting to the open exam, and we'll talk more about that later in this unit, there isn't really a required reading list, but the College Board, as I've mentioned before, is a little elitist in what they considered works of merit. So here's a list of poets that you might want to make yourself familiar with in some capacity. There's no way you can read every single piece written by every single poet or author, but this gives you a good list. Along with fiction, here's some popular fiction, novel, and short story writers. Some drama and expository prose. So make yourself a little bit familiar with some of those names. So your AP exam is going to be used in different ways. It depends on the college, once again, that you go to. But there's three main ways in which your score is used. For one, it can be used simply for college credit. Some of them are just going to give you blanket college credit if you score well, and that's going to count towards your graduation requirement, meaning that you can take fewer courses while you're in college and ultimately save money. The next way is another money saver, and that's to satisfy some requirements. And some colleges will actually allow you to place out of certain requirements, say out of an English comp class or an English literature class, even if they don't give you the actual college credits. So for example, you might not have to take that English 101 or, literature 102. Another way in which they're used is Admissions Plus. So even if your AP exam doesn't result in college credit, a lot of colleges are going to respect your decision to push yourself by taking that exam. Lots of online resources, lots of book resources can help you get through this exam. In terms of books, I love the Princeton Review. I think they do a great job. I use that with my SAT prep as well. Barron's is another good one. 5 Steps to a 5 is another. In terms of online resources, any one of these, especially the AP Student at the College Board, Test Prep is another good one. Shmoop is great. SparkNotes. Yes, you heard me, SparkNotes. Get on, look at those different novels, and have them help you analyze some big pieces of books that you know that you've read that are of literary merit. So we took our diagnostic test. We are going to use that test in our test prep. We're also going to have another practice test that's going to help us along the way. After you read the multiple choice, read the answers, read the explanations, try to figure out what sort of big ticket items, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses lie, and ask yourself some questions. So ask yourself, how many days do I have until the end of the test? What time of day is the best, most focused study time? How much time per day do we need to devote to preparing? When will you do this preparation? Try to be pretty specific. Based on the answers, will you focus on the test-taking strategies, on content, or even on both? And finally, what are your goals? You guys are going to do great. I have a lot of faith in you. I'm looking forward to a great final unit, and I think you'll be prepared.